Welcome back to 6 and 6, where we cover 6 stories from around the world in 6 minutes or less. With that said, start your timer. We begin today in Chile, where another power outage has occurred, this one leaving the main city of Santiago crippled in its wake. From BBC, quote, more than 8 million households across Chile were left without power on Tuesday afternoon after an electricity transmission line failed, cutting off the electricity supply to much of the country. In the capital of Santiago, the entire underground train system was suspended almost immediately. Thousands of people had to evacuate, and stations were plunged into darkness. We were like sardines in the dark. One passenger described the moment their underground train stalled. Many of those who had been in the lifts inside the stations when the power cut out needed to be freed by firefighters. End quote. Across the Atlantic in Africa, we have a case where the Congolese people are facing damages from their own army, with some of the soldiers being put on trial for their crimes. From Reuters, quote, statements during the court-martial proceedings highlighted the dysfunction of the army that has now lost more territory in eastern Congo than ever before to the Rwandan-backed M23 fighters, though its woes go well beyond the rank and file. Testimony collected with quick-fire trials of more than 300 soldiers, interviews with 3 senior army officials, and confidential UN memos seen by Reuters paint a grim picture of a fighting force hobbled by entrenched problems, such as poor pay, corruption, and failure of the corruption reforms. While President Felix Tshisekedi's government has touted efforts to recruit new soldiers and acquire new weapons, the senior officials said that this has meant little for soldiers on the front lines, who they describe as underpaid and under-equipped, end quote. Next, we travel to North America, where the Haitian military has begun another counteroffensive against gangs controlling the capital at Port-au-Prince. From BBC, quote, the government of Haiti says police have launched a large-scale operation in a shanty town controlled by powerful gang leader Jimmy Shiraz, who is widely known as Barbecue. The authorities say several gang members have been killed in the Lower Dems area of the capital, Port-au-Prince. Local reporters say military drones carrying explosives are being used in the operation. Prime Minister Alix Defremezemi, sorry for mispronouncing your name, sir, praised the assault. He said it was the work of a special task force created 2 days ago to tackle insecurity across the Pacific in Afghanistan, where the border with Pakistan actually has been closed going into the month of Ramadan. From Reuters, quote, the neighboring countries have a strained relationship, with Pakistan saying that several Islamist militant attacks have occurred there and have been launched from Afghanistan soil, a charge the Taliban denied. Pakistani military aircraft carried out strikes that killed dozens of Afghans in territory in December. Madol Mataqwa, sorry for mispronouncing your name, sir, an Afghan interior minister spokesperson, said that this week's clash had been resolved but did not comment on whether the border crossing would be reopened, end quote. Next, we want to go to Australia, where a pod of false killer whales have been euthanized as they were stranded on a beach in Tasmania. From BBC, quote, they are part of a pod of 157 whales that had beached near Arthur's River in the island's northwest. The rest had died shortly after stranding. Tasmania has been a scene of serious mass whale strandings in recent years, including the country's worst ever in 2020, but false killer whales haven't mass stranded there in over 50 years. False killer whales are technically one of the world's largest dolphin species, like their orca namesakes. They grew up to be nearly 19 feet and weigh 1.5 tons, end quote. And we finish today in Germany, where another attack has taken place with a vehicle being used as a weapon. From Reuters, quote, police detained the driver, who appeared to have plunged intentionally into the crowd given the speed at which he was driving. Prosecutors said in an act Interior Minister Nancy Frisch labeled horror in broad daylight. He did not appear to have been politically or religiously motivated, but there were reasons to believe that he was psychologically unwell. And Mannheim's chief police prosecutor, Romeo Schlesser, said, quote, the suspect had not yet been questioned, but was undergoing medical treatment after shooting himself in the mouth with a blank firing gun after the attack, end quote. And if you want to read any of today's articles all in their entirety, they will all be linked in the description below. That like and subscribe button. You can also find the podcast down there on Spotify, Pocket Cast, Podvine. And if you want to listen to something a little bit more US centric, come back on Monday, Wednesday, Friday at this YouTube channel, at this RSS feed. You can listen to the entire US podcast, and we can range anywhere from 10 to 20 to 30 minutes, just depending on how many good articles there are to really have a fleshed out thesis. So, with all that said, there is only one more thing to say. Stay safe, don't die.